And just John, does everybody has the mirror link?
Yes, mirror links in the chat, and not that I can see the chat anymore, but I do have my screen shared so we can see the board together. So perhaps we'll start just by going over the 9 problems that we've identified so far. Let's see if I can bring this up. I can't. So how to make voters aware about projects already under development. Whether they're funded by Catalyst or not. So the voter tool as presented tonight is a very good way of getting into proposed projects, but there are lots of work, there's lots of work going on elsewhere as well. So it's a very good problem. Second up, newcomers don't know where to go or how to start getting involved in the Catalyst process. How can we ensure a frictionless experience for every participant? And the Project Catalyst website is a very good advert for how that's developing. But again, a significant problem. I know the immersion fear that I felt as I first entered the Catalyst or the Cardano Discord server. Third problem, upcoming fund challenges have no place to build momentum, teams, and synergy. So that's about creating some community in and around specific challenges. That's, you know, a good place for brainstorming, really. Fourth, the proposal system forces waterfall as opposed to agile. How to get stakeholder input in between voting rounds. So that's a progressive approach to the proposal system rather than having a more responsive, agile, iterative process in developing proposals as they go between voting rounds. Feedback from projects, that sort of thing. Problem 5, currently 3 to 12 people determine the ranking and therefore likelihood of a proposal getting funded. Yeah, so the weight of votes is crucial, and keeping that abreast of everyone and maybe fixing that as an issue is important. 5, how can we recruit influencers to promote community involvement? Many are simply promoting participation in crypto as a monetary construct, not social. We had Ken on last time, and he's building a very good community, a very good YouTube channel that is engaged in the community. So encouraging him and others to get more and more like that content put out there is a great thing to do. 6 is a missing reputation system. It's very hard to know who to trust in and around the community, whether you're looking for talented individuals to work in your team, or business advice, or just people to fill in the marketing, branding gaps in your proposals. And final is no clear, accountable, and democratic process for improving Project Catalyst. And yeah, so there is a
the last one.
Oh, and there's a 7th. Yeah, so I thought there were 9. There's 7.
9.
How to involve Cardano Foundation. Good. So there's our problems. And one interesting thing that happened at the end of the last session was that we took a bit of a swarm approach to see how the crowd all moved towards a particular problem, to try and identify 2 main problems that we wanted to focus on. That was then hijacked or bondaxed by Sosha, who came up with a very valid and rational few points to his obstinance in not going with the crowd. And that then switched everybody's thought process to a different direction. So it would be good to really look at the criteria for what should be the problems that we focus on, that we do take forward and make it an agenda for the Catalyst Circle to really work on.
Can I add one thing, Jonathan?
Please do.
Okay, because, well, on the very beginning already in the last session we came up with 26 problem statements from different people. The goal is at least to go out with that we have to address 2 specific problem statements. because the very first agreement in the very first Catalyst Circle meeting was, okay, each representative will present 2 specific problem statements from his group into the Catalyst Circle, and the agenda for the next upcoming 3 months will relate on these problems. The thing is now that we say, okay, let's say the goal for tonight is we go out with 2 problem statements. And how do we gonna do this? And this is up to this group here right now to say how we're gonna do this.
Yeah. So it's a challenging problem to have. Does anybody have any instant thoughts on these problems and this sort of agenda that we're looking at trying to meet, nailing it down to 2?
I think a pure voting thing would be difficult, but it might be interesting if people stack ranked these things in order of what they think is important. I don't know if there's an easy way to do that on Miro, but
maybe also to explore some alternatives to voting, maybe. Because on one side, we can say, okay, voting is a great way to find consensus, maybe. But on the other part, the problem is that a lot of people which are voting have absolutely maybe no clue about what they are voting. So it has its ups and downs. And what happens if a process like this, when you say, okay, we need to make a decision. And to be honest, we don't know how we can make this decision yet. It's up to us to explore a new way to make these decisions. And this is what it's all about. To use already this very first government draft of the Catalyst Circle and to play with it around and bring it back to the community. It's up to you. It's up to everybody who shows up to integrate and to say, okay, how do we move forward with this?
One way we
just to be sure that I understand, we want to focus on 2 challenges. This is the process that we are
only on 2 problem statements represented on this sticky note.
Maybe each person could talk about each one of those 9 pieces, even if it wasn't their idea, so that we could see if we understand what those things are. And then we could all, that way we would be able, if you have to articulate it, you have to think about what it is.
Great idea.
Can I suggest maybe a different way? A way maybe to aggregate some of the problem sensing into one. Maybe if there is a tool that can answer more than one challenge, then we don't need to choose between them. I'm not sure that I explain myself properly.
So in the use case, for example, what can you show an experiment? And
should I continue? I think that maybe the problem 4 and problem 7 can get an answer by one tool. I mean, if we are looking for a way to stakeholder to give an input between voting rounds, and by this we also the stakeholders that give the most valuable input, they will have also some kind of feedback that will build their reputation. So by allowing the stakeholder to take part in the process between voting ground, we also creating the mechanism for reputation system. Is it clear? I'm not sure.
At least that you want to link the different problem statements together and make them once. By putting them in a kind of chronologic order. When we
it is still 2 problem a statement, but maybe one tool or one process can give answer for two or more, maybe even more.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. That would help me in my thinking. I took a few notes here and I said like 1, 2, 4, and 6 seem to be about communication and information sharing and how to improve that. And like 5, 7, and 8 seem to be about missing or broken processes that people are either complaining about or think could be improved. So those are, at least in my mind, 2 distinct categories of problems. I'm not sure where to put CF for number 9, but
I think including CF is a rhetorical question already, because by Cardano Foundation being involved in the Catalyst Circle, it makes them already involving. So I think this one we're gonna take off already. And maybe to combine them to each other, because now we have from Marta said, okay, when we speak about the problems, which is a very interesting and important point, I think, because sometimes, for example, in the last session, it was really beautiful that a lot of people stated one problem as the most important, and then Sophie just was total other opinion, and he stuck alone on one problem, but he explained it so well that he just convinced everybody else that, yeah, that he made the right decision at least, because he added criteria to it. Feasibility. Which of the problems are feasible right now? Maybe we can address this in the same way like we do our proposals. What would be the impact? Is it adjustable? Is there a certain auditability? So when you say, for example, the first approach from Marta was, okay, let's speak about the problems. The second one from Aaron was, okay, link and connect the problems to find a common solution, which maybe could address one solution for several problems, which comes quite close to Nori's suggestion to cluster already the proposals. He said, for example, he figured out already 2 groups. So Nori, could you already cluster the nodes in the groups which you figured out already?
So now that you've taken 9 out, and this is totally subjective, so I think other people's opinions would be valuable, but I put 1, 2, 4, and 6 into be about communication, information sharing, and 3, 5, 7, and 8 seem to be about missing or broken processes.
1, 2, 4, and 6. And then we have, what did you say? 3,
5, 7, 8.
3, 5, 7, 8. So, okay.
So the communication problem statement can be answered by something like a website. So it's about how to give information to the newcomers or to the voters. And the others, a group of problems require more sophisticated tools, more interactive tools, I can say. By that, we don't need to give up any one of the problem statements.
Really like this approach.
Thank you, Aaron. Can Sasha, do you want to speak now?
Yeah, sure. I think it's good also because the most important thing, like more than sort of like giving value statements about which is more important is making sure we all have like similar ideas of what the stickies represent, right? And there's some words, but they're so easy to misinterpret, or even maybe doing some collaborative exercise. Well, this could even be part of that, you know, to refine the meaning of the stickies. Because I understand now, like I created the number 4 one in the last session, and I see how the second part is really making it about communication, but it for me the core of the problem is not in that part. So maybe the whole statement should need refining or something like that. I'd say like the proposal system forces waterfall is not something you can solve with communication as like yeah, the proposal system is what it is. So maybe it's also a good way to find stickies that need clarification. So I could see if I can rewrite the second part to make it more clear what I meant by it.
So, yeah, with waterfall, what was
Vince,
the method?
Rick, can you just hold when you see that people have their hands raised up? Because I see Vincent, he have his hand raised up.
Well, I didn't see that. My apologies. And
No problem.
just wondering about the waterfall.
Vincent, you raised your hand. You want to say something?
Oh, go ahead. I was trying to, I feel like there's some kind of a temporal element to these solutions. And I'm trying to imagine them from the case of new entrants in the system, right? Like where along their continuum of interaction with the community are these problems? Are they at the beginning when they're just coming in, or pre-proposal, they have an idea, but they want to search, they want to get help with their ideation or help with proposals? Is it in the middle? Is that validation kind of funding piece? Is it monitoring and QA, monitor like KPIs and community engagement with agile processes? Or is it like at the end when we're looking at improving the system and kind of like coming full circle around and stuff like that? So I don't know, I was just thinking about breaking it up temporally, and maybe that would help elucidate where to focus, because if there is a temporal relation between some of the problems, where if one problem isn't solved, another problem, there's no point necessarily in solving a problem in the future. Or does that kind of make sense? I'm just trying to see if there is a temporal relation, trying to map out the problems in that sense and see if it elucidates anything. I don't know if it will or not.
Thanks, Vincent. I don't know if I can answer that. I think, yeah, problems definitely are some long-lived, some short-lived. I guess one of the criteria that came about as being quite important was that this catalyst circle position that Felix is in is available for, or is limited to 3 months. That's the initial sort of term. So ideally, we want a problem that Felix can run with and see some kind of resolution for within that 3-month period. So the time factor is definitely there. So maybe to get a sense of, so I think it would be very good to clarify any questions that haven't been clarified fully in your mind yet. So ones you're uncertain about, it'd be good to know about. And then also, if you already have 2 burning sets of these problems that you just think need to be addressed straight away, that's great to know as well. Perhaps we could just pick a voter cell that I've drawn on the right and stick a numbers in there of the questions that you think either you want to get more clarification on, and maybe drop a sticky note with 1 and then a question mark if you want to ask some questions on it. Drop that in everyone take a cell. Or if you just know it's a question that you think is really urgent now, you can drop it in with your question and give it an exclamation mark.
But Sean, are we really voters in this case?
No, not really. We're just getting an idea of everyone's opinions and thoughts. There's nothing set in stone. We're not voting, we're just...
Maybe maybe by the approach when we say, okay, everybody in this room, with which of these problems can you identify the most?
Mm-hmm.
And so later maybe say, why? Because when there is a problem, I think we have to define also why it is a problem. It's easy to say there's a problem, but
So Nori, maybe you can elaborate on your question, your comment on question 1.
1 and 7, those look like solution statements and not a problem statement. So I'm just wondering what the actual problem is there. Like, why do we care that voters are aware of projects already under development, or why does somebody care about a missing reputation system? Like, more clarity there to actually articulate the problem statement would be helpful for me.
I think there the problem statement is that when I say, for example, I will make a proposal for Fund 6, in any case, for example, where can I find the informations about all the projects already voted and funded for from Fund 5, 4, 3, which are maybe working already on the solution what I try to work on? Because maybe it's possible that I try to come up with a solution which is already in the executing level from a previous fund. Because now it's quite difficult to find the status.
Is this about 1? Because 1 is really about voters, making them aware, right?
That's at least it's true, yes. So yeah, then you're right, Sasha.
So I suppose it's a problem for toolmakers and maintainers if voters don't know about their projects.
I think what I remember from last session is that one problem that someone saw is that people vote for something which has already been done. But then, I mean, for me, that's already a presumption that that's a problem. I wouldn't think of that as a problem. I think people should have the freedom to say, I want a second solution or a third or a fourth. Maybe even, yeah, they know that it's there and they still want the second one, right? To give themselves choice or.
Yeah, to create some competition in those tools.
What do you think if there's already too much controversy already on the formulation of this problem statement? Should we take it off?
Does anyone have a good reason not to take it off?
So
it's not in my top 2.
So we have already 7 left. Cool, first step. You can take it off, John?
Great.
Okay.
Let's move it over here.
So coming back maybe also to Aaron's approach to say, okay, can we find some different problems which address to a common solution? Because I think point 7 and 8 touch a little bit the same topic. Don't know what you think.
And 5 as well.
That's true. So what would be, if we try to define a sentence which describes 5, 7, and 8?
It's about why didn't I participating in the process, but in the deep process, not just voting.
What if we were to choose one in the communications and information and one in the missing and broken pieces or processes to help isolate voting concern? Just an idea. Like if you can only focus on two, and there happens to be two categories that we're kind of working with and trying to cluster, rather than try to rank them across category, maybe just choose one of each.
One thing is this all in the context of toolmakers and maintainers? Because a lot of them seem to be in the context of winning votes. So is that a problem that is just around funding? And should we have two problems that are around solving funding issues? Or is there something more that we're looking for outside of the voting funding side of things? Like toolmaker support.
I think that's a good point. If I look at it with that perspective, then I see several stickies that fit into that. Like 4 is about getting like funded. 8 has something about that. 7, like what's the reputation going to lead to? And 5, but some others like 2, 3, and 6 are more about engagement of new members, like getting new people on board. So there's newcomers don't know where to start. Like how can they become tool makers? Upcoming new fun challenges. How can people start engaging, building teams? How to recruit influencers, also outreach.
So
Are we
But then
raising
there
hands?
was.
Sorry.
No.
Are we raising hand? I'm just sorry, Sasha. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Just curious.
Yes, sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Marek has his hand raised.
No, Marta was first.
Okay, go Marta.
No, I didn't raise my hand. I just want to make sure I was thinking of commenting, but I didn't want to jump in. But I'm sorry, Sasha, what you were saying was really interesting. So I apologize. Please continue.
So nice people here. I just wanted to share my thoughts. For me personally, the sticky note number 7 is the main problem I see during each fund. There is no reputation system, and that reputation system, it should be applied on many layers, not only the community advisors that will define which idea will be most probably voted on and get funded, right? But also the VCAs, the CAs, the proposers itself, because as we all know, you can go and become a co-proposer on some agreement, but still you don't always know if the proposer is trustworthy. So reputation system can really work on many layers, and I would be really glad to have one.
Yeah, I second that one.
Nori has his raised.
I just wanted to call out, because I have a note on that sticky as well, that a reputation system is a solution. And I'm still wondering what the problem is. And if we can clearly articulate the problem statement, there may be multiple solutions, not just a reputation system that will solve it. So that might be a useful exercise to do, is figure out what the question is. What's the problem behind this reputation system solution?
Yeah, good call.
Good call.
We can.
I guess something I wanted to maybe ask is, in the context of tool makers and maintainers, like, are we talking about tools to improve the process of interacting with Catalyst?
Yes.
And so if that's the case, then the way that the tools are structured would have an effect on how people experience the process of interacting with Catalyst. And so I'm just thinking about like how you structure the user experience and guide someone through whatever process they're trying to get involved with, whether it's understanding proposals that are already there, or getting through the process of setting up a proposal, or getting plugged into something that already exists.
And Vincent again. Vincent?
Oh, sorry. I was gonna put forward something for the missing reputation system as far as a problem statement goes, and I'm wondering if maybe it's something along the lines of we don't have a good way of tracking community participation and community trust. And so, I don't know, if you had to say a problem, it is individuals don't know who to trust for a given domain, be it technical, be it communication, be it just being friendly and being a good, welcoming person. So I don't know if that kind of is closer to the problem statement. If I wanted to put it in as like a user story, I as a user do not know who to trust to block. I don't know if that helps, but I think that's when I think of reputation, that's kind of where my mind goes.
And
That's good. I think maybe we could drop some stickies just around the missing reputation system. What are the problems that are raised by not having one? If you've got the ability to drop a sticky, that'd be good. So,
Sorry, can you share the mirror board?
Do you want the link again?
URL? Yeah.
I'll drop that into chat. I can't access chat.
Yeah.
yes,
Perfect.
You've done it. Thank you. Oh, there we go. I'll find it.
Aaron.
I'm not sure how to explain it. Maybe I just about the problem sensing. I think maybe there is a disconnection between the CA and the VCA and the common voter, and we want to create some kind of, I think, a continuum, excuse me, a sequence between the CA that are very involved and give a lot of time, and between the common voters, and want to allow people to be more fluid between passive and active participation in the process. So I'm not sure that this is the right place, but again, maybe it's more for the what was it? You know, about the eighth problem, accountable and democratic process for improving. No, excuse me, for the 5. Currently, only 3 or 12 people determine the ranking. So how we can create a process that allow people to go into the inner circle and out of it according to their spare time, according to their interest, and I think maybe reputation system can make some order in this kind of a process.
You say, for example, that a reputation system allows an alternative for the existing CA and VCA role. You say, for example, when you have very trusted person in the community, regardless of if they are CA or VCA or not, with a certain reputation, for example, they should be allowed to take action as CA and VCA.
Yeah. And not create a community with leaders and the common voters. We want to create something that's more fluid, more interactive between the voters and the more active participants.
For me, it makes a bunch of sense. So maybe we should say already, okay, the reputation system, it's more a solution. It's not really a problem statement.
Yeah, this is what.
Not it.
Exactly. So maybe we take it off already. What do you think?
Well, hopefully we'll have a problem statement that comes out of the expansion of the missing reputation system that can replace it. So if there is another solution other than a reputation system, or
I think
so
we have. Oh, sorry.
Go on, Felix.
No.
So we have 6 items now in the problem statement expansion. Anybody who's written something in there, perhaps like to talk further on it? Or is there anything in here that really identifies with anybody as something that can replace 7 as a problem statement?
Okay.
So I think there are aspects of 7 that aren't being covered by the others. Ken, your hand is still up, I think, or is it, or you would like to talk further?
Yeah. I was just thinking that, like, I guess the problem for reputation, it has to do with what sort of things about your interaction with the process will gain you trust in the system. So like what's missing what's missing in how people see your interaction with the process, like how you engage with the process. Like, I don't know how you can gain any trust without people seeing prior engagement. So that's just what I was thinking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's very limited information on the proposal pages on individuals' track records and past performance, and certainly even proposals that put in repeat requests for funding. It would be useful to see their performance in the last round, whether they've delivered on, the metrics on their delivered deliverables, whether they've been met. But more so, I think, in my mind, a reputation system is more around an individual and the person being capable of what they're proposing, as well as being trustworthy. And we're in a space that is full of nervousness because it's new, because it's there are so many stories of dodgy going on in other projects on other chains. So a reputation system could be something that solves a lot of problems for people coming in, but also people making decisions going forward.
Because I think for me, it's a little bit really when we see the sticky notes, for me, it's about two main problems. Fuck off, time's up, we go on. It's about one is when we speak about onboarding, okay, how to attract new people, how to include them into the ecosystem. So onboarding, introduction process, a fast, safe, and easy way for people to join the ecosystem. Funding touches, for me, much more sustainability. How do you keep these people in this ecosystem? How can you offer a place for them that they can move on? So at very first, a infrastructure to say, okay, how can people join into the ecosystem? What do they need for tools to create the projects, and what do they need to get a sustainable base to stay in the ecosystem as well?
Mm-hmm. So reputation that has a reward system on the back of it.
Mm-hmm. Because I think that a lot of the problems which are stated, they are more tries for a solution already than a problem statement.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we speak about reputation system, when we say a reputation system, that means already, yeah, okay, the problem is we don't have a reputation system, and the solution is that we have a reputation system. We are looking on currently 3 to 12 people determine the ranking, and therefore likelihood of proposal getting funded. This means, okay, this is the problem, and the solution would be that there are not only 3 to 12 people. So, and I think with the most sticky stats, a little same. Oh, Sophie, sorry.
Yes.
Well, I agree partially. I mean, I think on the last one, you're already jumping maybe to a solution that for me can go in another way, right? If you look at 5, it can also go in the route of like, there shouldn't be any ranking. It's also a solution, right? You can automatically go like, it should be more people, or it should be experts instead of people, right? It's already changing the situation. I think there's room there. But the reputation system for me, or maybe one thing I'm wondering is which is a bit difficult to distinguish, but there's certain problems which there's certain part of the problem space of this whole thing that I see as like problems of the community, and then there's like but the community isn't like fully they don't have full autonomy yet, right? The system of how a catalyst works is determined by IOG, and the circle could be the first influence from the community on those systems. And then, but like a problem like who can we trust? Like I personally would never ask IOG to fix that problem for us, because then if it's a reputation system, it shouldn't be a top-down. We can build our own reputation systems in communities, right? And it's already happening in different ways, like Discord servers using roles, assigning them to people who have engaged. Like in Swarm, you have Swarm veterans; those are people who have engaged, right? So that's exactly what those stickies are saying is happening, but not top-down. But that, yeah, it's maybe my personal view. But I think the problems that I would want to pose to the circle are problems that I feel the community do not have yet the means to solve by themselves, and they have to. IOG has to take a step there to help out.
So that's a very interesting point, because what happens if a problem statement would be that we are not able to develop our solutions because of IOG's keyholder role?
What do you mean by that keyholder role?
Because everything is owned, everything is decided by IOG. And everything what is coming up is like a given deal to the community. Take it or not. And the community have to handle with this. So they hold all the keys. And the community, even when they are created, for example, regarding the voter tool. And Marek was a very important partner, because he gave them access to certain important data. For a lot of tool makers, which would need an access for certain APIs, for example, but they don't have the APIs, they can't even develop their tools to build solutions, because everything is held by IoT.
Not exactly, but most of that was true. Regarding to API, we created a group a few months back that I gave access to IdeaScale API, and George already started to create the API wrapper, so he can do the API call and have some data to be consumed by his Catalyst page. So we are trying to, step back and provide all the information for to the community. But currently, the API is still lack of anonymity, and we can't be sure that there won't be any privacy leak. So because we don't want everyone to have access to private data of every IdeaScale member, so we need to perform many tests before giving and enabling it publicly. But this is one of our item in the roadmap, in the backlog. And the second thing, I would say, not always the IOG says and community can take it or not. The red and yellow thing is the great example of the down-up initiative that was presented by the community and taken by IOG. And we are using it right now since Fund 4, and it's being improved every single fund.
It's totally true. And just by what you said before, this is quite interesting also, is when you said, because we don't, like, no, there could be a leak of transparency, so you can't give the access to everybody, which says, okay, IoT have to handle with the same problem as the community. Who do I trust? How can I trust this person? Why not?
Yeah, the API access, I gave it to the, not to the, our Cardano community, the Catalyst community that we are using, I would say on production. I have access to the sandbox. So we are testing the API on the sandbox, you know, because of the private data. And if you want to participate in the tests, feel free to ask or just reach out to me and I will give you an access. No problem at all.
You're really cute, Marek. but Ken and Martha, you have your hands up.
It seems like trust, from what's being said, that trustworthiness has different meanings depending on what your needs are. When you where you are in the community, what you're trying to accomplish, and what your needs are. So, like what a new person, who can you trust to give you correct information about where to go or who to talk to? That's one level. But what you were just talking about, that's a whole nother level of trustworthiness. You know, it has different requirements. Just wanted to add that.
Ken, and then
Nori.
Well, I was thinking, yeah, along those same lines, like the whole fact that the IOG does hold the process. Like there is the methodology behind, like pretty much everything that they've done related to Cardano, and making sure that you take things slowly and make sure that things are in place so that you know that the process can continue. So
can that link be shared?
Sorry.
Oh, great.
Can that link be shared?
Somebody.
Of course.
Okay.
It can share the documents. You know, there's a lot of resources for it.
Okay.
The natural place. Hi, Felix. The natural place. Hi. The natural place to start would be. I suppose I was thinking of the community. Phil K's community page.
It's important to look at the feasibility of any problems that we do take on. You know, if there's a pressing need for privacy, which is crucial within the API access that we do have access to, then there's no point in pressing that as a problem at this juncture. Maybe if it drags on too long and it's actually holding things back, then perhaps yes. So it would be good to try and get back to narrowing down on what the real crux of the problem is around the reputation system. And I think it's we don't know who to trust, simply put, and that would then cover all the branches and grades of trust that you have to give to people that Marta was describing. Any thoughts?
I just wanted to jump in and add on to Marta's statement. It made me think of trust is kind of where this is landing, and how do you trust people? And there are multiple different kinds of trust. And it made me think about maybe it'd be fun to give everybody like a D&D character sheet, and then you have experience points, you have your stats, you have your different abilities, and then you can at a glance see like, oh, this person is really good at lockpicking. I want them on my party because I know that we're going to run into a bunch of issues there, or they have a lot of experience points and they're level 20. So I need that kind of reputation and power to help me with something. I think it might be useful to think of it in that terms rather than just one score or one axis. Many people have different ways of contributing, and it'd be fun to look at ways of representing that.
So also on problem statement expansions, when you see that 2 times mostly the same, so we don't have a good way to track community participation and contribution, and who to trust and who to reward, which says a little bit already the goal is to reward trust, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because this would be the logic line between the both. So how to reward trust? We can't reward trust, but this would come back already to the solution that we aim to reward trust. So the thing is, how can we reward trust? And Ken and Marta, the hands raised again.
Isn't trust subjective though?
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, I think the trust stems from something else. So if you're thinking about how someone engages with other members of the community, so maybe someone's really good at seeing where a person's at and redirecting them to a place where they can fit into the process. Or maybe someone's good at teaching about some aspect of the process. And so if you're looking at the way that each individual is either increasing someone's understanding of certain aspects of the system, or helping them know where they fit into the system, like the reputation, or like it comes out of the interactions between individuals.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, instead of having less problem statements, we have more problem statements now. This is good. But well, okay.
So maybe we just pick one from the expansion, and that's all we're allowed to bring back over, and it must replace 7.
We have the possibility to pick 2 problem statements.
Two additional problems.
We need to address 2, and we still have we have today, then we have Saturday's form session, and we have again next Wednesday. So we still have 3 events to break it down into 2 problem statements and to define them. Because, well, I think we can't go into the catalyst circle with 2 sticky notes. You can say, hey, okay, look, these are our problem statements. Here we go. It would be cool to do it anyway, but I think hey, this would be really cool. Maybe we should do it. You have 2 sticky notes and you have a bunch of manpower and man brain already inside. And here we go.
Well, there will have been a lot of brain power expelled on those 2 stickies, so they'll have got their value. So I would feel guilty if we go into the next session with, instead of 9, we're going with 16 or whatever we have now. So,
because we brought it already from 2026 to 9. Now we
1 step forward, 1 step back.
Exactly. Okay, so I think we respected already Marta's approach to say, okay, we can speak about the problems. We respected already Nori's approach to say, okay, we're gonna cluster the problems. But we didn't respect it so much Aaron's approach to say, okay, what would be a common solution for several problems? I think this is the challenge, that each suggestion is included into this process. Everybody who comes up with a suggestion. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the problem is that we've got too many ways of clustering.
So, so maybe Aaron, when you came up with your suggestion already, could you lead this?
I see more sticky notes, but it seems that they are the same problem. Maybe they're defined differently. Maybe it's just a matter of how to write it, how to define the problem. But it seems like we did in this process, we did focus on some field of issues. Okay, it's not one issue, but it's a field of issue. So it's all about could call it reputation, but more like creating a community is people that know each other, that know how to what to expect from each other, and it is not scalable if it depends on communicating directly. So in order to be scalable, we need some system. So again, I'm not sure that we again there are more sticky notes, but the same problem. It's one field. Maybe just matter. It's very late for me, so I'm a little tired. Can't find the words, but maybe it's a matter of how to identify, how to write, to find the right words, and then. And by that, the solution will. I still think that one solution can address a lot of the problem as they are defined now. But again, I'm not so focused myself, so I apologize.
No problem, it's late. You're in Israel, I guess, so it might be midnight, your place already, almost.
Yes, almost.
Marta.
Is it possible to distribute the way to assess trustworthiness? So, for instance, if each person, as they enter some part of Catalyst, the swarm or whatever, they keep track of who they consider trustworthy, and then that's somehow publicly viewable. So each person has their list of trustworthiness, and you could change it. You could take people out of it, put people in it. It could be malleable, so I don't know if you're asking for this kind of an answer. So I might be misinterpreting, but I was just saying if there's a way to have a public reading, a way to read, and that could be algorithmically done then too as well, right? To be able to read how each person assesses how others are trustworthy, and then that would show you when a new person comes in who they think is trustworthy, and that would show you someone who's been here a while who they think is trustworthy, and then those could be aggregated at different levels. That's all.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Mark. I have several solutions in mind as well, and I'm keeping quiet.
Okay, sorry.
No,
It's been done. A liquid democracy, there is some kind of a system as you describe it, Marco. You know the term? You've heard about it? Liquid democracy?
Liquid democracy.
I think it has been done. I will look for sources about it, but this is what you are describing is a way of delegating influence power in very flexible ways that you can delegate for one person, and that person can delegate the power that you gave him to another, and at any moment you can take it back, this power. So it's like it's also create a reputation, but it has been done.
It'd be really good if you could find references to those and pass them on to us. Thank you. Yeah, Nori.
I love that we're all jumping into the solution space because we're all like, that's what brings us here, is we like to solve problems. But turning it back to the problem statement, we're spending a lot of time on the trust question and reputation stuff. So I think, Felix, we seem to be, nobody else is like saying, hey, we're not talking about the CA process, or we're not talking about this other sticky, we're focusing too much here. So I think as a group, we're saying that this is important. So this is probably one of your two stickies, is figuring out how to word this and because I think the reputation and trust thing is something we can build from the bottom up. We don't have to wait for IOG to bring us something because it wouldn't work anyway. So I think for me, this is something that is super important as a community. And if we're looking at Toolmakers and Maintainers as a community, this is one of the key questions that helps build community and helps us connect and have trust and all that kind of stuff. So I think, like, at least in my mind, like one of the two questions is definitely like landing in this area around contribution, participation, trust, reputation. Which naturally leads to the other end of that is, who do you reward and how? And I think there's a lot of people putting in a lot of volunteer time into this community. So we're taking that on faith because we all want to build the ecosystem, but at some point that's not sustainable forever. So we need to figure out who gets rewarded for what too. So I think this is a really key question, at least for me.
So